The future is a hefty responsibility and not one that we take lightly. But then taking things lightly has never been what Hefty is about. That's why we've created the Hefty Renew program that turns hard-to-recycle plastics into valuable resources like park benches and building materials. To participate, simply fill up an orange Hefty Renew bag with accepted items, tie it up, and drop it in with your regular recycling. That's it. It's that easy. It's time to rethink recycling with Renew. Particular valued resources may vary by geography. More info available at heftyrenew.com.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Law of Attraction Tribe. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith, and today we are going to talk about mental health and manifesting. I do think that the two have a correlation, and this was actually a popular question that was asked inside of the Inner Tribe Facebook group. So if any of you are interested, by the way, of joining the Inner Tribe Facebook group, it's our private group for members of the Manifest It Now app. So check it out, download the app, and come over to the Facebook group because this is where I ask you guys for recommendations on everything from podcast episodes to what subliminals or workshops you want to see in the app, to, looking for beta testers for my new courses, things like that. So you just look for the Manifest It Now app in the App Store, and you can download that. And when you sign up, I'll send you the link for the Inner Tribe. Okay, so we had a couple of different questions that all came in that kind of go over the same thing, okay? So the first question is from Jennifer, and she asked, can suffering from depression block your money flow? Now, I think that this is kind of a complicated answer. And I don't want to say like, yes, it does or no, it doesn't. I think it's different, for everybody. But I also think that everybody at one point or another is going to go through periods of time or seasons where they're feeling depressed or down or anxious or angry, right? Like we're all human beings. And like I talked about on the last episode, everything's a cycle, and there's going to be times where you're feeling down, where you need a mood boost, so to speak, and you're not going to feel like doing anything. So like I said in the last episode, it's really about honoring that cycle and those low points and allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling, because what you resist persists, right? And if you don't fully experience it and let yourself feel it, it's going to remain. It's going to be that stuck energy in your body, which EFT tapping is actually really good for, by the way. So I just want to explain like my experience with this. And I had gone back and forth on if I wanted to share this on the podcast because it is a little bit vulnerable, just sharing personal things about how you're feeling and how you're managing like mental health and everything else. But at the end of the day, everyone's gone through it at one point or another. And I remember seeing a statistic like after COVID where they said that damn near every adult is on some form of like antidepressant or anti-anxiety, or has been at some point. So I think we all get it, right? We've all been there. The way our society is set up, it really, it helps to stress us out. It enables this like hustle culture of work, and stress. And I think that's amplified now with just the cost of living and, the cost of food and gas and everything else and inflation. I think people are really feeling it. I think they're feeling the stress. They're feeling the anxiety, and over time, that can lead to depression. So I know I brought up on the podcast like a long time ago that when I had my third, child, Aiden, I went through a little bit of that postpartum depression, right? And it didn't really, I didn't even realize it was depression because my nerves were so fried. Like I just felt like I was anxious 24/7 because he was a colicky baby. He cried all the time. And for those of you who have had kids like that, you probably know what I mean, where you're just on edge 24/7. Like you're just on edge. And I remember telling my doctor, like, my nerves are just fried. They're just fried. I feel like I can't even function. So something really interesting happened. And of course, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I think that this happened because it was supposed to take me down this path of kind of like finding out alternative ways of dealing with anxiety and depression and like the things that I've dealt with my entire life, but finding like natural ways to cope with it. So I'm going to talk about those, but first I want to explain like how I got into that situation in the first place, right? So back when I was in the corporate world, I had a nurse practitioner that was freaking phenomenal. And she was the one that encouraged me to take a really low dose anti-anxiety medication while I was in the situation that I was in, knowing that like you can come off of this, but until you find a new job, you know, why suffer? Like go through this. This will help you get through while you're transitioning out of this job with this crazy boss. And she was just so nice and just so like, you know, like letting me know that this is completely normal. She's like, I see doctors, I see attorneys, I see all kinds of professionals, I see moms, I see people, everyday people come into my office and are on these types of medications because everybody goes through these periods of time in their life where they just need a little bit of help. And that really helped me because I was very, very anti any type of medications like that. I was super into health podcasts at the time and like health and fitness. And I just knew some of the side effects. But for those of you that are like in it, it's so easy for someone that's not going through anxiety or depression to be like, oh yeah, you shouldn't take that. It's bad for you. But when you're in it, it's like you'll do anything for relief. Like you don't care. I mean, not that you don't care, but it's just like, which is the less of two evils? Like, I can't keep going on living this way. And that's where I was at. I mean, I was waking up every morning, literally sick to my stomach because I had to get up and go to this job where I was just being harassed. So I go on this medication. It was amazing. It helped. I left that job, which was the source of my stress. And I went off the medications, right? No problem, no big deal. It was a very low dose. So anyhow, I have Aiden and I just remember like there was a point where he was so colicky and I remember like a specific day where we were eating dinner at my parents' house, which was pretty much our nightly routine because it was so chaotic. That was the only thing they knew to do to help me. They were like, at least let us cook for you because, you know, they just knew that I was like shot, like my nerves were shot and I had 2 other kids to take care of. And so every single night we would go over there and they would all eat and I would pretty much be standing and rocking Aiden and moving around because it was like he just wouldn't stop crying. And it was so bad this one particular day. I like went outside on the porch because it was so loud that I didn't want to disrupt everyone else. And they were like, don't worry, like it's fine. But I went outside and I just remember like I just started like bawling and I was just like I was like, how am I going to keep doing this? Like it was so unmanageable. Nothing would help him. He cried all the time. And I remember, you know, my mom like saw, you know, how badly I was affected by this. And she was like, look, maybe you should call the doctor's office and just get something, you know, just get something to help you through this difficult time. He's going to grow out of it. And so I did. So I called that same nurse practitioner and it turns out that now their office has like changed a bunch of things and they're only taking Medicare patients. So I'm like, great. So then I go to a primary care office that's like in network, because you know how everything is now, it's got to be in network or whatever. And I get this doctor and she is like telling me, well, you know, why don't you try journaling? And she's telling me like all of this stuff that I literally do every day. I'm like, I have a whole entire business around this stuff. Like I am doing all of the things and I'm still struggling. So then basically like she just didn't want to help me. And she's like, well, you're going to have to go to a psychiatrist if you want something like this prescribed for you. And I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. Like I'll go to a psychiatrist. So then I go to like find a psychiatrist again, like through my insurance, which by the way is like the top plan. We pay like $1,000 a month. It's supposed to be this wonderful insurance. And they tell me that it is like a minimum of a 6-month wait list to get into someone. So not only do you not get to pick who you want, but like you're going to wait 6 months. And I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. So what do I end up doing? I go online to one of the online services, and again, it was a nurse practitioner that I got, and she was so kind and like so helpful. And she was so pissed that no one was willing to help me. And she's like doing her whole test or whatever. And she's like, right now you have severe anxiety and depression and ADHD, like all three of them, are impacting your life right now. And she like could not imagine that a doctor wasn't willing to help me, that they were telling me I had to go to a psychiatrist and I couldn't get into the psychiatrist. So whatever, she prescribes me something. So, you know, I go on that and it was hell for like a month. It was hell. It was like the side effects were so daunting. And she just kept telling me like, if you can stick it out through the side effects, it's going to help you. Like it's like the top tier medication. We leave this on the top shelf. It works good, but the side effects are brutal. So I was just tired all the time. All I wanted to do was take naps, you know, but I was like, well, that is better than feeling like an anxious ball of mess. So I stuck it out for a month, and then like, sure enough, my anxiety, like it like vanished. And I just felt like, okay, I can handle this. Like I can handle the crying. I can handle everything. And what was interesting is as I calmed down my own anxiety, it correlated to Aiden, right? Like my anxious energy was just feeding his anxious energy. And I felt like once I calmed down, like he started to calm down, and it really, really did help the situation. And so, you know, I was on that for a while, but then, and this is where it all ties in to the question that Jennifer asked in the Inner Tribe. Does it affect your money flow? Does it affect manifesting the things that you want? So over time, I noticed that it was working like so well that I was so like neutral about everything, which is fantastic when you're talking about going from like crazy anxiety. But the downside of that is I wasn't really excited about anything. Things that I used to love, I was no longer excited about. I used to love like going out to eat and exploring, you know, different areas of Tampa and Florida and going out with friends and having people over. And I just didn't want to do any of that. I literally just wanted to like sit at home and not do anything. And so at first I chalked it up to just being like, well, I'm a mom with like little ones. This is normal. That's just the way it is at this time in my life. And this time it's just a season. It'll pass. Then more recently, and I might have even talked about this on the podcast, I heard someone else saying she was going through the same thing, and she was correlating it to COVID. She's like, ever since COVID, I've not been the same, and I've just not been interested in like going on vacation, going out to eat, like doing things I used to love to do. But then it dawned on me recently, because I came across all of these people on TikTok that were on the same medication, saying the same thing that I was feeling, which was like, you just don't give a shit about anything. And so when you get to that point, yeah, it does affect things. And that's when it clicked for me, because during that period of time, I went from like manifesting things like crazy to kind of evening out, like I wasn't like not manifesting anything. Like I still had a good income, which is probably because I had set my business up the way that I did, kind of on autopilot. But I didn't really, like I was having a hard time making goals of what I even wanted. I didn't even really know what I wanted. Like I didn't really care. Like I was just comfortable. And as Tony Robbins always says, right? Like comfort is really the most dangerous place to be, because there's no motivation to improve. That's when people get stuck. And, so I was kind of in that place of like not really caring, not really having anything I was excited about. So like if I would set a goal, it was more like, well, I'm setting this goal because I think I should set this goal, but not really because I'm excited about it or I really care about it. And that was like how things were. Like I was just like, I just don't really care. And it didn't really, dawn on me though for a while, and that was affecting my whole life. It was affecting my feelings, because my feelings were just evened out, like I didn't really feel bad, but I didn't really feel good. I didn't really feel anxious, but I didn't really feel excited either. I didn't really feel fearful, but I didn't really feel like those butterflies in my stomach, like, oh, I'm going to do something new in my business or start something new, or, like I was just so evened out that it was kind of like blah. And that's really not how life is supposed to be, And so I realized that, and I realized, you know what, like he's not in the colicky phase anymore. I don't need this anymore. So I need to explore, first of all, how the hell to get off of it. So that's something that I kind of want to put out as like a public service announcement. I was in a desperate place. So I was like, yes, give me the top shelf stuff. Like, that's great. I didn't really think about it because I was just like desperate for relief. But looking into how addictive these things can be and what coming off of them can be like, because even though they're not like narcotics, your body still becomes addicted. And then you can have like really bad withdrawal symptoms coming off of them. So that's what I started experiencing. And by this point in time, I had waited the 6 months, got into a psychiatrist, and I'm telling him, like I'm explaining to him like, hey, an hour before I'm set to take this medication, my body is like experiencing withdrawal, like bad. Like I would feel dizzy. I'd feel like I was going to vomit or pass out. And I was like, there's no way that could be normal. And he's just like, oh yeah, that's normal. And then I would ask him like, should I still be on this? Because like, I just feel like I could probably come off of it. And is it safe to be on long term? And he's like, oh yeah, it's totally safe. Like he would totally brush off my concerns and just be like, oh yeah, it's fine. Well, guess what? I used to work in pharmaceuticals, okay? I know how to read studies, and I know that every study is put out and paid for and done and completed by the pharmaceutical companies. And they're anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks typically. The only time there's like a long-term study is if it's a retroactive study that like some government agency or university is doing for a particular reason, but most drugs don't have long-term studies. The max that they're going to have is 12 weeks. And guess what? It takes 12 damn weeks just to get used to this drug, just to like get over those initial side effects. So then once again, I'm like on TikTok because I can't get answers anywhere. This guy like could care less. I went to multiple primary care doctors. None of them want to touch any medications like that. They were willing to prescribe me a weight loss medication that's not even indicated for weight loss. And I'm not even like, I'm in a normal BMI. So they'll prescribe something off label for weight loss that I don't even need, but they won't prescribe me or help me with medications for my anxiety which I actually have a diagnosis of. Like it was so absurd, and it was the craziest experience. And I just, for those of you that like have not gone through this or aren't going through this, I probably sound like a crazy person, and feel free to just skip to the next episode. But I know that there's people out there that need to hear this because they're going through it and they're like, what the hell? No one will help me. So that's why I like just felt like, you know what? I don't care what anyone thinks. I've got to do this episode and talk about this because that's where I was at. Freaking psychiatrist won't help me. The primary care just keep redirecting me to the psychiatrist. I can't switch psychiatrists because, again, they're all booked out for months. They're not taking new patients. Like, you get who you get, and that's it. So this guy, it was a 45-minute drive to see him, and he didn't want to hear any concerns, was like literally just telling me everything was fine and safe and nothing to worry about, when that is like anything but the truth. So I had to freaking learn from TikTok because, like I said, I couldn't get any help. So I start seeing all these other people going through the same thing, having the same symptoms, and how it's like affecting their life, and like they're trying to come off of this medication, and it's like horrific. It's like trying to come off of a drug, you know? And so I'm at this point, I'm like panicking. And again, I'm like trying to find doctors that'll help me. No one wants to help me. I go to like another primary care, and I had started doing my own research about things that are natural that can help with this. And I'm talking to her about like methylated folate because I have MTFHR, which is a genetic mutation. And she's looking at me like a deer in headlights, like has no idea what I'm talking about, has like no education on this whatsoever. So then I realized, like, if I want help, I'm going to have to find like a naturopath, a functional doctor, someone like that. So for anyone who's like in that same scenario where like you're paying good money for health insurance, yet none of these doctors are listening or willing to help, look in your area for a functional doctor, a naturopath, someone like that. And this particular one that I found is booked out like months in advance. So like he's really good. And it just goes to show like how many people are looking for these options because they're realizing like, maybe I shouldn't be on all these medications. Maybe there's like natural things that I could do to better myself. So I started going down that route and found out that there is a ton of options out there. There's a lot of different things that I can do to address all of these issues that are a lot safer, that are you could buy over the counter. They're cheap, they're affordable. And then it dawned on me like, well, that's probably why, you know, the healthcare system doesn't know anything about it and isn't talking about it because there's no profit in it for them, right? And that's like a whole other podcast. But I mean, I'm pissed about this because I think like when you're paying $1,000 a month for health insurance, you should get quality care, and that's just like not what I was getting. So I started to find different things that would help me get off of these medications, but still manage my anxiety. Like if I needed it, like if I started feeling anxious or depressed or anything like that, there's different things that can help with that. So the first thing, it's part of my routine, and I truly believe in it because there's so many benefits, and that's Magic Mind. So I'm sure that if you've been like in the health world at all or listened to any podcast, you probably hear about all these different like nootropics and adaptogens. You may have heard of like lion's mane, or, you know, just different types of things like ashwagandha for like anxiety. Basically all of that, like all of those different things are in this shot of Magic Mind. It's got everything. It's got the adaptogens, the cordyceps, the nootropics, and then it has like the vitamins. So it has like vitamin C, vitamin D, like all the different vitamins that are going to help with your immune system and all of that. And then it's got the things that are going to help with focus and mental clarity. So I find this, and I absolutely loved it because prior to that, I was trying to get all of those things through like the mushroom coffees, which I just couldn't do. I felt like I was drinking dirt. No offense. If anybody likes those, like that's great, but I couldn't do it. And I knew that all of those things would help all of the symptoms that I was relying on medications for, like not being able to focus due to ADHD, feeling, a lack of motivation due to depression, feeling, just on edge with anxiety. Like it kind of helps with all of that. It helps with focus. It helps with clarity. It helps with brain fog. It gives you that boost in like your mood, right? So I started taking those and thank the Lord, like it tastes good. Like I like the taste. It is not bad. It's not one of those shots that you have to choke down, and it's way better than dirt water, which is what I was trying to drink. I tried making my own shots, which were very healthy, but you've probably seen me on social media choking them down. They were rough, really rough. So these are, they taste a lot better, which is good because, like even my daughter will drink it and she's like so freaking picky about everything. But it's a natural remedy, so to speak, for like all of these things that we as human beings all face. We all have these periods where we feel quote unquote like low vibe, where we need a mood boost, where we're not feeling our best. And, prior to that, a lot of us went on these pharmaceutical drugs that helped for a time, but that end up having worse side effects than benefits, or at least that was my experience. And I also want to point out, like, obviously I'm not a doctor, and like none of this is health advice. That's why I'm telling you, like, go and find a functional doctor. They're a doctor, they went to med school, but they're open to all of these alternative and natural remedies. That's what I would recommend if you're having trouble with like your regular doctor. But I just want to put that little disclaimer. So yeah, Magic Mind. That's a game changer. I've been taking it every day. And I mean, literally like every single symptom, it checks the box of like helping with that. And so since they are an exclusive sponsor of the podcast, you can get 20% off. You don't even need a code or anything. You can just go to magicmind.com/LOA tribe 20. So magicmind.com/LOA tribe 20, and you'll get 20% off. And so I'll link that in the show notes as well. But I would say try that if you're having issues with like focus, motivation, a boost in your mood, mental clarity, or if you're like interested in things like lion's mane, but maybe you don't want to like drink the different coffees and teas that are out there. This is a great thing to try. And so this kind of goes along with Amanda's question in the Inner Tribe, which is, she says, I enjoy podcasts when you simply talk about how you get into your own high vibe. I also do many of the same things you do, such as walking outside and experiencing downloads at that time, but I just don't know what to do with them. I appreciate all your wisdom shared on such a down-to-earth level. Keep it up. Okay, so Amanda is getting the downloads, right? She's going outside in nature, which nature is like everyone should be doing this. I mean, that's like the number one thing. And that instantly can help boost your mood. It can help you with clarity, with focus. Listening to birds chirping will like literally calm our nervous system down, just because, it's like deep within our, evolution of like, if you hear the birds chirping, it means it's safe outside. There's no predators around. So your body can relax, your nervous system can relax. So getting outside is so helpful, but she's doing that, right? And she's getting these downloads, these like, I call them downloads, but it's like little bits of inspiration. You're out for a walk and all of a sudden you're like, man, I should start a podcast, or I should do a course, or I should, start posting about this, or, like just little bits of information where you kind of light up and you get that like excitement of like, man, like this would be so cool, right? Here's what happens. If you don't act on that right away, that excitement for it, that passion for it, it goes away, right? And so I believe that it's coming through to you at that specific moment for a reason. Like for whatever reason, that is the best time for you to take action. And so what I do is like, while I'm in that moment of getting that download, I try to take as much action as possible. So I can't tell you how many times I'm going for a walk and I will get a download and I'll pull out my phone and I go to either my notes section or I'll pull up like that voice memo where you can record your voice, and I will just start like putting all my ideas out there. And sometimes it's like a whole podcast episode that I come up with. Sometimes it's a whole course. I've come up with most of my courses while I'm like out on a walk. I'll get like a clear download of what the outline should be. But try to take action as soon as possible, because if not, it's gonna go away. And if you try to come back to it later, you're not gonna have that same sense of passion and energy behind it. So taking action. And what happens if you don't take action right away, your brain steps in, the left side of your brain, and you start overthinking it. And that's where the fear and the doubt and, all of these limiting beliefs show up that keep you from taking the action. So just take the action before you have time to think about it. And if you're like, okay, well, I want to take the action, but how? Like I don't really feel like it. I don't feel that motivation. I can't focus. I don't have clarity. That's when you take Magic Mind. Like I take it before I'm going to record an episode, before I'm going to sit down and do a course, like anything I'm going to be working on that requires that sense of like creativity and taking action. That's where Magic Mind comes in. Okay, so there's that. Then the other part of this, and I wanted to bring this up as well. I want you to do your own research on this, but again, this is kind of like a public service announcement, because I started following this guy, Gary Brecka. He has a podcast called The Ultimate Human Podcast. So he's a scientist and he dives deep into genetics and genetic testing. And luckily, again, I feel like everything happens for a reason. I had genetic testing done when it like first came out, because someone in my family had a stroke at a young age, and it turned out that they had this genetic condition. And so the doctor's like, okay, we've got this genetic testing. We know that, your relatives could have this as well. Everyone should get tested. But at the time, of course, insurance didn't cover it. I don't think insurance still covers it, which is another thing that pisses me off. But it's worth it because you pay for the test once and that's it. You've got your genetic code and you know what types of things you're predisposed for. So one of the things that I have that Gary Brecka talks about a lot is MTFHR. And it's a genetic mutation that basically just means that your body can't process B vitamins. Okay, so your body is its own little, chemistry lab. And when B vitamins come in, it's supposed to go through this methylation process to process it so that your body can absorb all the goodness of these vitamins. Well, when you have this genetic mutation, your body can't do the methylation process. So what do? Well, there are vitamins that are already methylated. And that is what everyone that has the MTFHR mutation should be taking, is these methylated. I think the one I get is called methylated folate, and it has like all the B vitamins and folic acid or whatever, but it's all already gone through that process. So my body can actually absorb it. And according to Gary Brecka, he says that about 40% of the population has it. What are the symptoms of this? Well, you get brain fog. You're constantly feeling tired, fatigue, low energy, not feeling, like you can focus, not feeling motivated. People might call you lazy. Yeah, it's because you have a freaking genetic mutation and you have this massive deficiency now in your body that is just there because no one ever told you. And so your body's not getting the vitamins that it needs. And so he thinks that a lot of the things that we have, whether it's disease, mental health issues, things like that, all come down to a depletion of the essential vitamins and minerals that we're supposed to get every single day that we can't process due to these, factors. So I started taking that multivitamin or the whatever, methylated folate for the B vitamins. And holy shit, I mean, it really makes a big difference in everything. Like it does work like almost instantly. You feel like a different person. And so again, like my other recommendation aside from like finding a functional doctor would be ask about this genetic testing that you can do. And there's all different types of things that, you can have, but based on that, that's where a functional doctor will be able to look at that and say like, okay, these are the supplements that you need that are different from like just your run-of-the-mill multivitamin or supplements, right? So that's the other big thing. And then the last one that I want to bring up is called methylene blue. Now, methylene blue, believe it or not, this is going to sound so crazy. It's the dye that they dye clothing with. It's the blue dye that they dye clothing with, okay? I am not a scientist. Go research it yourself to understand like how it all works, okay? But my friend that works for a functional doctor told me about it. And she was like, yeah, if you want to get off of, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, ADHD medication, look into methylene blue. So I did. And again, it's something you can get over the counter. A lot of people will take it in like a dropper form. So they'll take a few drops with water. There's other formulations where it's like a supplement or whatever, but it's over the counter. It's cheap, been around forever. And the crazy thing is it's like known. It's known by the healthcare industry as sort of like this miracle product where when all else fails, and there's nothing else to do, use methylene blue. Like that's literally, I've heard so many doctors now talk about this. And same thing like in hospitals where they're trying everything, nothing's working. They'll try methylene blue and it helps to deliver oxygen to the cells. So that's like one of the things it does, but it's called like the miracle product because it can help everything, including mental health, because it boosts serotonin. Okay, so it's a serotonin booster that is natural, that doesn't have all the nasty side effects of like some of these prescription medications. Now, the thing with methylene blue is if you're already on any type of medication that boosts serotonin, you can't take methylene blue because then you can get what's called serotonin syndrome. So that's why you really need to like see a doctor and talk about it. But I just wanted to bring it up because it's like, after finding all this stuff out, I'm like, all this time I'm paying $1,000 a month for health insurance. And there were natural remedies that I could buy without a prescription over the counter that are safe, that are effective. There's tens of thousands of reviews on them. And like, I never knew about them. I never knew about it. And so that's where I just thought like, you know what, I'm going to do an episode on this because chances are there's someone out there that's struggling and maybe you are thinking about getting on medication, or maybe you want to get off of medication. Maybe you're having the same issues I'm having where you can't find someone that's willing to help you. Just start doing your own research. And I think that in today's world, like we have to be our own advocates. And I think that for every issue we have, there are like natural things out there that have been used for ages that we just don't know about because they're not profitable for these companies and the healthcare system. So if you're struggling, just know like you're not alone. You will get through it. And just to like wrap it all up, my suggestion would be start looking into like functional doctors in your area. Do your own research on these different things. So like the genetic testing, see if you can find a test. I think they're still expensive. I don't think insurance covers them. So you might not, be able to afford to do it. But if and when you can, it's really helpful because then you can kind of pinpoint exactly what you need. So genetic testing, functional doctor, and then that like methylene blue, look into that. Again, don't take it if you're on any type of serotonin boosting medication. And then Magic Mind. Like Magic Mind, if you want to add it to your morning routine to like get in that flow state, get in that high vibe state. Like if you need to actually take action, like Amanda said, on the downloads that you're getting, that's where I would recommend doing that. So hopefully that'll help like someone out there that's going through this. And if you are, reach out to me. The best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram. Just message me at Law of Attraction Tribe. I would love to know, because when you're going through stuff like this, you feel kind of crazy. Like there's still, a stigma around mental health. And especially if you're in the manifestation world. Like I have always had that sort of imposter syndrome type feeling, because I'm not this super high vibe person 24/7. Like I do deal with anxiety. I always have. I mean, I have literally dealt with this since I was in second grade. And so it makes you feel like a little bit crazy. But then when you meet other people that are going through it, you realize you're not crazy. We're not crazy at all. We just haven't been taught about all of these natural remedies that our ancestors knew about. And chances are you're deficient in something. Your body is deficient in an essential vitamin or mineral that you may think you're getting because you take a supplement or you eat well, but you're not, because your body can't process it. And so like that could literally be the thing that's making you feel like crazy. Like, oh my gosh, why do I feel this way? Like, why do I constantly feel tired? I must just be lazy. Why do I never have energy? Why do I never like want to sit down and focus? Because it's your genetics. Like literally that could be the answer. And it may not be, but it could be. So it's worth looking into. So guys, I know this was like twice as long of an episode as usual, but I think it's a really important topic. And I think if you've stuck around this long, it's probably because you needed to hear it. And don't ever let anyone make you feel like there's something wrong with you when there's not. Like you just have to be your own advocate and look at it as like, I'm not going to stop until I get answers on why I'm feeling this way and how I can make it better. And chances are there's a natural solution out there, so you don't have to deal with the nonsense of doctors not wanting to prescribe things and having to see specialists and all these other obstacles that we face, right? So that's my story of my, mental health journey. And it's not perfect yet. I'm still going through it, but I'm doing so much better now. And these natural products, in my opinion, they work a hell of a lot better than any pharmaceuticals have ever worked for me. So look into it and don't give up, and know that you're not alone, and swing over, talk to me. You don't have to go through this alone. We can all kind of keep each other posted on what we find out. And it's just a constant learning and evolving journey. But hey, like that's part of life, right? So long story short, yes, I do think mental health can impact manifesting, because it can impact your feelings, and your feelings are sort of like that volume button on manifesting. And like I said, I got into this sort of numbed out phase where I felt like I was a zombie. I felt like I was numbed out. I felt like my feelings were so evened out that I couldn't really pour into a specific goal I wanted to manifest. So yes, absolutely. I do think that affected it. And that ultimately is the reason that I got on this journey of getting off of these medications. Not recommending anyone, never, by the way, go cold turkey off of a medication. That's like the worst thing you can do. But do your research, and you can taper off, and you can look to natural remedies. That's what I did. And I think it's made a difference. I think that can definitely hinder you if you're at that point where you feel numbed out all the time. So, very long answer to a very, very complicated but common problem. I hope it helps. I hope I didn't ramble too much and it's going to resonate with someone. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and being patient with me on this episode. And I'll see you back here next time.
Welcome to another round of Drawing Board or Miro Board. Today we discuss technical diagramming with systems architect Maya. Let's go. First question. You've spent 10 hours slogging over a sequence diagram that should have taken 5. Drawing board or Miro board?
Drawing board. And if I'm being honest, Miro would probably cut that time down by half. You know, with its AI tools and ready-to-go templates.
Next, your diagrams become so bulky, it's more complex than the solar system. But all it takes is a few clicks and...
It's Miro. I've used those technical shape packs way too many times, and stuff is just digestible on its infinite online canvas.
Now, the final question. Everyone's brought in, but you have to make all these tasks all the way over in Jira. But wait, it's done. Is it...
Miro, easy with its two-way Jira sync. Easy to plot dependencies. Everyone always knows what's up.
And she's done it.
Join over 60 million people creating technical diagrams without workflow glitches. Get your first 3 boards for free at Miro.com. That's Miro.com.